What's up, folks? Welcome back to the stream. It's Monday. We are indulging in a little bit of mayhem. Gonna be a bit of a short one today. I actually wasn't gonna stream this week. I am in the middle. My area's a little messy here because I'm in the middle of packing for Adepticon. We are leaving tomorrow to head over to that event, but we have been granted a great number of new Chaos datasheets from the new campaign book, which looks absolutely crazy. All these new units that are coming out for Chaos look amazing. We were deceived. The great deceiver has struck again because Games Workshop told us that 2025 would be the year of Chaos. Turns out it's actually 2026 since we got Masters of the Maelstrom this year in addition to these new units. I don't know. They look great. We'll see what their points costs are. Obviously, that can make or break a unit, but we can hop in there immediately. Yeah, a little bit of a PSA, I guess, because I'm going to be heading over to Adepticon. There's going to be no streaming this week beyond this one, obviously, and then I will likely not have a Best Armies in 40K, at least not on Monday. If I do one, it will be probably Tuesday or Wednesday when I'm back in the office. So, unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit light on content this week, but hopefully this kind of stuff can tide you all over. So, let's talk about what we got going on over here in this nice little Warhammer community article we've been granted. The new Kravek Morne Iron Warriors guy, in addition to the Mutilator datasheets, in addition to the Defiler datasheets, and some extra bits for the Defiler stuff as well. We can start at the top, I guess. We can safely assume they'll be undercosted. As undercosted as the Lash Whip Tyrannid Prime. I'm hoping for Lash Whip Tyrannid Prime levels of points costing here. That's what I'm putting on my money on that. They are going to be so broken that they have to cost like 50% more than they should. The other weird thing is that, like, oftentimes Games Workshop will undercost things that they don't feel like they'll sell well otherwise, and then overcost things that have like good miniatures. It happens all the time. And for whatever reason, that, I don't know, that hasn't happened in this last release cycle. So it feels like they're probably going to be pretty good. Let's talk about Kravek Morne. He's your new Terminator guy. And he's great. He himself hits like a fucking truck. He has Deep Strike baked in. He is a Terminator keyworded character, but he can join Obliterator and Mutilator squads. So he's not limited to Chaos Terminators. Chaos Terminators, I think, have a little bit of anti-synergy with him because they can generate their own rerolls with Dark Pacts, and then he also has rerolls, so he's not like, he doesn't do that much for them. He does improve their arm penetration characteristic, which is pretty good. But I think that Obliterator and Mutilator units is probably going to be where this guy ends up being. So the big thing on his datasheet here is his Architect of Ruin ability. He selects a prey target effectively at the start of the game. At the start of the battle, you choose a unit in your opponent's army to be his hated foe. And then each time he makes an attack that targets the foe, importantly, this is an important one. People are going to fuck this up all the time. This is not a leadership ability. It's not applied to the unit. Only Kravek gets it. So if people are being like, yeah, my unit just gets full wound rerolls because of this guy. No. Only he does. It doesn't do anything for the rest of the unit. It's literally only him. However, that's phenomenal because he has a suite of incredibly good attacks. So you're definitely not going to be upset about that. So you reroll wound rolls against your hated foe. In addition to that, every time the hated foe is destroyed, you choose a new one, which is great. The one weird thing is that this doesn't have like the transport clause where if you're in a transport, you can use it anyway. But I believe that it doesn't matter so much because you're putting him in, like, you could put him in 5 Terminators, I guess, in a Land Raider, but that's like, I think the only real way you can carry this guy around. Otherwise, he's going to be probably deep striking to jump in and get weird like angles onto people. His top line profile is basically just a Terminator character. It's a little bit low for what I sort of expected. I guess he's 6 wounds, which is okay, but he's G5, 2+, 6 wounds. It sort of looks like he's like this hyper tank, like, you know, Gravis Captain with a bunch of damage reduction effects or something stacked on top of him. But he's basically all offense, no defense, which I guess makes sense for the siege subfaction inside Chaos Space Marines. And then he, obviously the important thing for him is because he's getting so much use out of this Architect of Ruin. Also, you know, keep in mind he's going to Dark Pact most of the time. Talking about his attacks is incredibly important. He's got a Bale Flamer, D6 plus 3, strength 6, AP 1, 2 damage, in addition to a Combi Bolter. His Architect of Ruin ability does not require him to make melee attacks. It is any attack, which means that this is going to be strength 6, AP 1, 2 damage re-rolling. In addition to that, he has a persistent ability, so it's not a leadership ability. If I zoom in here, is this going to like ruin everything? A little bit. Yeah, it's cut off now. We'll just do this. This is fine. It's not a leadership ability. It affects his entire unit, which I think is how leaders are probably going to work in 11th edition, if I would hazard a guess. Each time a model in his unit makes an attack that targets the closest eligible unit, improve the AP characteristic by 1. 99% of the time, if you're firing a Bale Flamer, which is only range 12, you are attacking the closest eligible target, which means this is effectively just AP 2 all the time, even if he's by himself. Which is why I say, this guy actually just fucks. You don't need a unit for him. He's good in a unit, but you super don't need a unit for this guy. You could just hold him in reserve, rapid ingress him, and then just go run a flank. He'll die to, like, decent shooting, but he's going to kill every utility unit for, like, forever. Basically just for free. He's crazy. It's insane. In addition to that, he also gets a Combi Bolter. Because they're not pistols, he can fire both of them at the same time, so he gets 4 random additional strength 4 shots. Potentially wound rerolls as well. Kind of sick. And the Bale Flamer, of course, doesn't really get benefits from Dark Pacting, so if he's on his own, you're not Dark Pacting with him, but if he's in a unit, his Combi Bolter might get stuff from that. I don't know. In any case, he's also incredibly good in melee. He has Last Argument, which is his hammer, I guess, which is strength 7, 7 attacks, strength 10, AP 2, 2 damage, devastating wounds. So he's coming in with potentially full rerolls on a 7 attack Power Fist that will almost certainly have sustained hits. Absolutely nutty. On top of that, he also has an extra attack weapon. It's 3 attacks at strength 6, AP 2, 2 damage. So this guy swings 10 times. 10 times with 2 damage melee attacks. Holy shit. Probably with sustained hits. Probably with +1 AP, because his effect here only considers the any attack he makes. It doesn't matter about whether or not it's a ranged attack, which means as long as he's fighting the thing that like he's next to, basically as long as he punches the thing he's in base contact with, effectively, these all go to AP 3. So his output's phenomenal. He basically should convert 10 hits because he should sustain off of a Dark Pact on hitting on 2s. Means on average you get around the same number of hits back in from sustained hits that you put into the attack. So 10 sustained hits if he's like swinging like a T10 vehicle or T10 unit. Let's say it's not even a vehicle with rerolls. He probably gets 2 servo harvest attacks through and like probably 5 last armor given attacks and like 4 devastating damage. So he's handing you somewhere around 5 AP 3 2 damage saves and 4 mortal wounds on average. And that's with no other effects applied. Nuts. Absolutely crazy. Not to mention the fact that any of those effects are also going to apply to whatever unit he's joined into. So he's also going to be giving that armor penetration characteristic buff to something else. Now, in fairness, the Architect of Ruin thing can be played around. In some cases, you can try to dodge him. But if he's in Deep Strike, he's going to be able to, drop next to the thing that he's got his architect effect on. And if it dies earlier in the game, you can just choose a new one for him. So he can, I think it's going to be easier to apply than people will likely give it credit for. Probably 50% of the time or so, he's going to be benefiting from these rerolls. And that's not even to mention the fact that he's also shooting you with a potentially Strength 6 AP2, Ignore Cover, 2 damage Flamer with wound rerolls as well. This man is just a damage fire hose. He's crazy. So anyway, chats, the funny thing is that, yeah, I don't know. I think people keep complaining about wound rerolls and the damage race in 40k, but oh boy, is that not going anywhere anytime soon, apparently, according to this datasheet anyway. Absolutely nuts. This guy looks insane. Tyrannid Prime got shafted? Yeah, Tyrannid Prime having a bad time. Absolutely just malding out over here. Tyrannid players, eat your heart out. I mean, at least Kravek Morne's an epic hero. You can take one of them, but you know, he'll probably cost like 60 points if Twin Lance is to be believed. No real army support, which means like he's kind of in contention with other characters like Cypher and Vashtor and these other sort of sub little packages, unit combinations that you see in Chaos Space Marines. This unit archetype is getting really busy in Chaos Space Marines. This guy who's just punches good and is like sort of just a good, you know, character by himself. You know, we've got Cypher in there, we've got Huron Blackheart in there, we've got Master of the Maelstrom in there, we've got Vashtor in there. Whether or not he can compete, not because he's bad, but because it's such a like they're spoiled for choice in Chaos Space Marines these days. Is going to be an interesting question. I think he's going to be good, and if he's appropriately costed, if you know, or appropriately, I don't know, if he's not super expensive, if he comes in at like 100 points or something, he feels like a 120, but we'll see. If he comes in at like 100 points, you might just see him by himself, and he'll just come in and he'll just like kill every intercessor in the game. 10 melee attacks, dude. And he could probably just kill you with his gun anyway. Insane, dude. Time to charge him with your empty impulsor. He'll kill it and then move on. So that doesn't seem very good. He'll overwatch it for AP2 damage, and then he'll just punch it to death with his anti-vehicle 2+ melee attack. So yeah, that's a strong start. Can we follow it up with good stuff? We're going to take a little bit of a break, I guess, to talk about Mutilators. Now, if you don't know the history of this unit's so funny because for a really long span of time, for, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years, I would imagine, when they first were released. Let's see if we can find the original Mutilator model because they're incredible. Here we go. Oh my God. Chat. Look at this baby boy. Not only was it like basically the ugliest model ever made, but also this was, I think, in contention, if not indisputably so, the worst unit in 40k. Where they were just this really slow melee unit. They didn't really have anything going for them. They had random melee profiles. So when you charged into your opponent, you didn't know what your melee stats were. So you didn't know if that charge was good. And then when they transferred over to things moving, to movement characteristics being listed on data sheets, they were move 4, I think. That was like before rapid ingress was a thing. So the only way you got them to work was that you just like deep struck them and banged a 9-inch charge and then hoped you rolled the correct weapon profile. They were atrociously bad. So this data sheet already is looking better. Not only do we have new models for them, but also we can select our weapon profile. What a time to be alive. Now, they don't have there's nothing particularly insanely crazy going on with these guys. They do mortal wounds on the charge. They have roll a d6 for each model in the unit that's in engagement range of the target. The downside is that it doesn't have the Blood Crusher version where you can roll for the entire unit, even if only one model is in. I kind of wish that they had done that because it's 3 models on big bases. The number of times you're going to get more than one into contact off the charge is really low. So this ability is kind of a nothing burger. And in some cases, it can, for these little tiny units like this, it can be bad because if you roll exacties on your charge and then kill the model you're engaging, your opponent could pull in such a way, in some cases, that you only get one Mutilator to fight. So, I don't know how I feel about this particular ability. I wish it was either more consistent or, I don't know, something else. It's a bit of a weird one for this particular unit, just because of the logistics of actually getting it to work on the tabletop. That said, their melee output is pretty good. It's 3+ weapon skill, and they can choose between 3 profiles: clawed sweeps, rending strikes, or thunderous blows. There's no keywords on any of them. It's just different stats. Clawed sweeps is strength 6 AP2 for 1 damage. Rending strikes is strength 9 AP3 for 3 damage. Thunderous blows is strength 12 AP4 for D6 plus 2 damage. These guys could attach in with what's his name? Fucking Kravek Morne. Yeah, Kravek Morne, and they could get +1 AP. So that's something. I guess that's okay. And obviously, there are a bunch of ways to source hit bonuses on these guys as well. So they're going to Dark Pact. They're probably sustained hitting. You can play them in like Huron's Marauders, for example, and they go to Weapon Skill 2, or they're hitting on 2s. They get +1 to hit. There's a bunch of other ways to source +1 to hit from them. So realistically, if you're including these guys, I think most of the time they're going to be probably hitting on 2s with sustains. So their weapon profiles are relatively consistent. The downside is that it is really low attack volume. The unit is 3 models. So if you're swinging their big punchy attacks, their big hits, right? AP4, it's been a while since we've seen AP4 melee outside of like monsters and stuff. AP4 for D6 plus 2 is a lot, but it is only at maximum 6 attacks. So the chances that you get diced out is relatively high. But at the same time, it's a deep striking melee unit that hits pretty hard, especially into a single target. Something that they're not going to sort of cuck you on your combat movement with the crushing charge mortal wounds, because you're averaging probably 1 mortal wound per mutilator. You're probably doing 3 each, 3 for the unit if you're going in. So if you're hitting a single target, these guys will absolutely wreck. I'm not sure how to feel about them. I'm sure that there's some sort of stacked bonuses that you can give them. And I do think that a sort of independently operating, deep striking melee unit, especially something that has a high strength and AP characteristics, not like Warp Talons or something, is relatively unique inside of Chaos Space Marines. But the question is like whether or not you would rather use these guys, or you would just drop an Obliterator squad next to your target and then shoot them, which feels very similar. It's like a similar amount of damage. You don't have to make a charge roll. But coming out of Rapid Ingress, I don't think these guys are bad. I think they're going to be pretty good. And in a lot of cases, like the unit itself is 15 wounds, T7. It's not easy to kill. They're going to take some pretty serious dedication for your opponent to remove. So they could probably get multiple activations out if you do have the opportunity to drop them in. It's not a flashy data sheet, but it is, I don't know, it's something. Creations and Bile seems pretty good. Can you fit them in Land Raider? I actually don't know if you can fit them in the Chaos Space Marine Land Raider. That's worth looking into. Survey says the current Land Raider datasheet excludes embarkation of Obliterator models. These aren't Obliterator keyworded, so currently they can, but I would be shocked if that remains. That it would surprise me if that didn't get changed. Because obviously Obliterators can't go in Land Raiders. It could be an oversight where they end up just like not updating it, but that feels like something that will go in a faction pack where they just like add a little errata to the Land Raider when these guys come out to add Mutilators to the Land Raider datasheet exclusion. So I would assume that you cannot fit in a Land Raider. That seems like that you wouldn't have it. Greater if they're cheap, otherwise might be a pass. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Maybe they're 85 points a model though, or maybe they're 160 for 3. That would be pretty okay. 40 some odd points for these guys. What was that? 50, I guess 53 points. Yeah, that's a lot. All right. That's Mutilators done. Let's talk about the big crab in the room. That being the Defiler. The new Defiler profile is out. out. We have it. Finally. They did basically a lot of the stuff that I hoped that they would. First of all, each time it makes a normal advance or fallback move, it can move through models and terrain features. It is a strictly superior version of Scuttling Walker than any other thing. So the baseline was that either this needs to be fast, because it's on the big giant base now, right? Either this needs to be fast or this needs to go through walls. They did both. It goes through walls and it's move 12 rather than the OG version, which was move 8. Fucking awesome. I was like, it's also relatively big, so it needs to be tough to kill. T11, 18 wounds. It's gone up 4 wounds since its older profile. Otherwise, its top line profile, I believe, is the same. OC5, 3+, 5+, and Mother will save. So already, I think we're off to a good start. Move 12, sort of hybrid melee ranged unit that can go through terrain features is fucking rad, dude. On top of that, each time it makes a Dark Pact until the end of the phase, it can reroll wounds of 1. Already good. In addition, once per battle, it can declare that it will overcharge its Demon Forge. It has a Nova Reactor effect. It gives you an additional penalty, or maxes the D3 roll, essentially, if you fail your Dark Pact leadership check. However, it gives you full wound rerolls. Whoa! The time of rerolls are upon us, chat. 2 of these 3 data sheets baseline have rerolls baked into them. Full wound rerolls baked into them. Crazy. It's all 3+ weapon skill, ballistic skill, outside of its auto-hitting stuff. And it does Dark Pact. So this is also just a Dark Pact. So you can... Yeah, you're going to be sustained hitting most of the time, right? So this is essentially 2+ ballistic skill with reroll wounds of 1 baked in, and then this once per game additional rerolls. So already we're off to kind of an insane start. It does have 1 trillion different weapon options. It starts with a battle cannon, 2 excruciator cannons, 1 heavy missile launcher, 1 heavy bale flamer, 1 shearing claws. Jesus Christ, that's so much shit. There's no way this thing is under like 300 and something points. Probably like 350, I would imagine, maybe 400. This is definitely like, this is an almost knight level of output for sure. Especially because it can go through walls and it's very fast. So the Hades battle cannon by itself is basically just a battle cannon profile, strength 10, AP 1, 3 damage. You can replace that with an ectoplasma destructor, which is strength 12, AP 3, 3 damage. So you go up 2 strength and 3 AP, or in 2 AP, excuse me, for -3 attacks and a little bit of lesser range. Doesn't really matter that much. I think you're going to take this most of the time. If I had to hazard a guess, just because of the AP characteristics, is going to be pretty helpful. The excruciator cannons, which are strength 6, AP 1, 2 damage, the same thing that's on the side of the venom crawler, can be replaced by magma cutters, which are just meltas. They're just melta guns. They're 2-shot melta guns. So you can trade 12 strength 6 AP 1 2 damage for 4 strength 9 AP 4 D6, potentially D6 plus 2 damage. If you're building one of these guys to be a big close combat dude, then you might be doing that. But honestly, just consistent long range output from this thing, 12 like anti-medium infantry shots, 2 damage shots, is a lot. Especially since, when it matters, you could either be wound rerolling or be lethal hits. So, I don't know. That's tough to give up, because those are useful basically every turn of the game, as long as you're getting line of sight and stuff. The Heavy Bale Flamer is strength 7, AP 2, 2 damage, D6 plus 3, ignore hitting torrent attacks. Excuse me, ignore cover torrent attacks. You can replace that with a las cannon. It does have 1 of those and 1 heavy missile launcher, and the replacements here are the same. So the heavy last cannon or the Hades last cannon is a 2-shot last cannon profile. A heavy Reaper auto cannon is a devastating wound sustained, strength 9, AP 1, 3 damage profile. So it's a devastating wound auto cannon profile, or an Electro Scourge, which is 5 additional strength 12, AP 2, 2 damage melee attacks. So that's where you're taking Electro Scourge most likely if you want to play a more close combat oriented version. Otherwise, you can just stock up on las cannons, or we can stock up on multiple sets of wound re-rolling Reaper auto cannon shots. So we can be firing 8 3-damage devastating auto cannons that get that once per game full wound rerolls to fish for additional devastating. It's interesting. It is only once per game, so it's very, very dicey. I think in a lot of cases you're going to be looking at those las cannons or the melee profile. You can basically like build this guy with magma cutters, the Bale Flamer, and the Electro Scourge, and he's extremely good within 12 inches. One thing to keep in mind about these things, though, is that I believe if they're on the 160 mil base, they are too large to strategic reserve without using the large model deployment rules, which means it's actually going to be difficult to get these guys into melee. You have to have some sort of threat range amplifier, I imagine, because it is very screenable, right? It's essentially just a knight without any additional sort of threat range amplifiers. It also has the heavy missile launcher profile, which is either it's almost exactly a ballistic dreadnought. I think it is. Oh, it's frag missile is AP1 instead of AP0. I think other than that, it's exactly a ballistic missile launcher. You can also replace that with the Reaper auto cannon and the Electro Scourge. So important to keep in mind, you cannot equip more than one Bale Flamer. There's no way to do that. But you can equip dual las cannons or dual Reaper auto cannons. There's also a clause here that says you cannot equip more than one Electro Scourge. So you're only ever getting the 5 base melee attacks plus the 5 additional extra attacks. So you can build into sort of Bale Flamer and melee weapon. You can build into all long range guns, right? So you can build into Excruciator cannons plus las cannons potentially. There's a couple different build options that you have available, which is cool. I'm very glad that they don't give you access to multiple Bale Flamers. Although, honestly, the heavy Bale Flamer, man, in some cases, it's going to be so disgusting. Being able to Overwatch with this thing and using its Dark Pact to get wound rerolls if you haven't used it yet, because you do Dark Pact when you Overwatch. It has been ruled for whatever reason. It doesn't make sense rules as written, but they decided that that's how it works. You do Dark Pact when you Overwatch because you are selected shoots. You can trigger full wound rerolls, which means you can like Overwatch into a T8 plus vehicle and just try to kill it with your flamer. Which gets wild. That's crazy. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. And because it's not Titanic, it looks like a knight, but it's not Titanic keyword. It's just a big walker. You still get access to all those stratagems and stuff. So, yeah. On top of that, it's also punching really good in melee. Strength 16, AP3, D6 plus 1 damage. I think that's the same as the Soul Grinder and the old Defiler data sheet. Or now it has a sweep profile, which is new. You can swing 10 Strength 6, AP2, 1 damage attacks. Not quite as good, but it's good if you get like stuck into Guardsman or something. Electro Scourge adds sustained hits to Strength 12, AP2, 2 damage, which honestly is pretty good. That weapon profile is pretty solid. I actually really like that weapon profile. It probably, if it doesn't really get a benefit from Dark Pacting because you already have sustained hits, but it's probably full converting. If you get at least 1/6 in there, so you're looking at like probably 5 attacks, 5 hits, and then you're winning on 2s into most things in the game and handing them like 4 or 5 AP2 2 damage saves. It's very reasonable for giving up like a las cannon mount essentially. So yeah, chat. That's the baseline profile. It looks crazy. It seems incredibly, incredibly good. You get +1 hit from Warpsmith, +2 strength from Vashtor, sustained hit 5 up in Packbound. Gonna delete everything, yeah. Yeah, I think definitely it being either good in shooting or melee or both, right? It's very like well-rounded, means that you can basically slot this into whatever build you're playing. And there's most cases where you can construct a combo that's gonna be pretty good. I even think like you're oftentimes looking for big payoffs for like the Hellbrute combo in like Pact Bound Zealots, and this being a single entity that can just put out so much, so many attacks that I don't know. There could be a use case for it there. I'm not sure. Just just an insane data sheet. This wound reroll is like consistently blowing my mind. Like you think about, it's like a Nova reactor, right? Once per game damage amp, but it's like that's like a devastating wound, and sometimes it does a bunch of damage, but you have to roll sixes. It depends entirely on what you roll. Full wound rerolls is wild. Absolutely insane. This data sheet is extremely good. Points are going to do a lot for this thing. If it ends up undercosted, if they're like, put this thing at 305 or something, you're going to play 3 of them. You're just going to put them on the line and you're going to run forward. And people are going to be like, this is too much output. I can't deal with it. It's less than half your army for, 54 wounds at T11. I don't know. They can walk through walls and stuff. You do have some, having played a bunch of 160 mils recently, because I'm playing 3 Soul Grinders at Adepticon, you do run into some real big issues with real estate if you're taking a bunch of them. However, these things are significantly faster than those are and are harder to kill. Or at least they have more wounds. Their invulnerable save's not as good, but they do have more wounds. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. But being able to go through terrain features is also enormous. Anyway, chat, if you can give these guys assault, so if you play like Renegade Raiders, they could go up to AP2 in a lot of their attacks most of the time, and then they also can get assault on other weapons. They're going to go crazy because they're going to move potentially up to 18 inches walking through walls, which is going to be pretty wild. That's where I think things get just like insane with these things, because once you amp that move characteristic whatsoever, then it goes crazy. Only going to be 220. Could you fucking imagine, dude? They cost it like a Land Raider. They're like, it's a Land Raider. It's not even T12. It doesn't even have a 2+ save. Basically just a Land Raider. Holy shit. Dude, if this is sub 300 points, if this is sub 350, we're going to have a problem. It's going to be an issue. I do think that the size of the base is a big deal, though, because not being able to strategic reserve them is huge. That's actually a really, really big deal. It does reduce the use case of running triples of them, because it gets so difficult to set them up. So, I don't know. I think you'd probably in for 2. This isn't like a Catan shard thing where you dump all of your points into this one data sheet and then that ends up being like over 50% of your army, but on the tabletop, the actual real estate it takes up is very small. The Defilers don't have that problem, right? Or they do have the problem where they're like physically going to take up all your front line, right? The other things you can do with your army, whether you're taking scouting rhinos or whatever, starts to get more and more difficult the more of these things you take. So I do think that there is an upper limit on them. It's probably 2-ish, maybe 3 if they're crazy efficient. They can move through each other, I guess, which is like kind of sweet because they're non-Titanic, which is cool. So I guess it helps quite a bit. I'd have to play it with it, I suppose. It might be easier than I'm giving it credit for, but I think that the size of their bases probably makes actual like setup difficult. So I don't know. If they are sub 350, I think you're going to see 2 in a lot of lists. Or like 3. Yeah, I mean, you compare this to like any Greater Demon, and it's like the same thing. It's just a trillion attacks. It's good in melee. It's good at shooting against OC5. And the Greater Demon profiles are typically... I guess you're 300, around 300 points. So this is probably 300, I think, is where we're going to see this. That's what I would imagine. If it ends up being sub that, though, it's going to be tough. Oh, boy. All right. How does strat reserves if you rapid? You lose the turn you rapid. So because it's a large model, the reason for that is... it is exactly 6 let's get this on the screen. It's exactly 6.3 inches wide on the 160 mil base, which means it's physically impossible to wholly place it wholly within 6 inches of a table edge, which means it uses large model deployment. So it has to deploy off of your back table edge, whichever table edge is considered your table edge on the deployment map. It must deploy touching that, and it can't act the turn that it arrives. If you rapid ingress it, it won't act on your opponent's turn. which doesn't really matter. However, you have to rapid ingress your big expensive vehicle on your own backline. In some cases, that's not too bad. If you play like Search and Destroy, is it Search and Destroy? I think some of them have like your table edge. I think it's Search and Destroy that like extends out of your deployment zone. I guess I should fact check myself on that. It's been so long since that effect actually mattered. Let's take a peek. If we look at the chapter approved deployment layouts. Oh man. It is. So if we look at like Search and Destroy, yeah. So if we take a peek at these, your deployment edge extends outside of your deployment zone. So you could deploy it off of this table edge explicitly, this one at the top or at the bottom, depending on which side you're on. But that's much easier to screen out, especially if your opponent has infiltrators and stuff. So it's like there's counterplay. And if you play any of the other deployments, like you play Hammer and Anvil, suddenly you have to rapid ingress this guy on the back edge of the table, like 50 inches away from where your opponent is. It's not ideal. It's not like terrible if your opponent's just going to kill at top of one if they end up like going first. So you're just going to take the opportunity anyway. But you're hoping not to be in that situation. So it depends on the deployment, realistically, whether or not you're going to do that. In any case, chat, these are not all the rules for the Defiler because they are retaining their abilities from their cult legions. So because the other types of Defilers don't Dark Pact because they're not in Chaos Space Marines, the Death Guard, Emperor's Children, Thousand Sons, World Eaters ones, they will get their own special effects. The Death Guard one removes cover from people, which is sort of an OG one. What's interesting about this is like, this is sort of the thing. And I remember when this the Defiler data sheet for Death Guard first came out, I was like, oh, I think you're gonna play Defilers a lot because this ability is really good. And then it just didn't end up mattering because every Death Guard thing is like AP 5. So like, who cares? But this has not changed from the original Death Guard Codex. However, I think the other weird thing is that if you were to strip cover from something, you would want the Defiler to be the one benefiting from that because it has a bunch of AP1 weapons. So it's like, it's a little anti-synergistic. I don't know. Not that exciting. A very good ability on the surface, especially once you start to consider that, like, you could take Plague Marines and dome people with ranged affliction, so that the Defilers like all shooting into like -1 save, -1 toughness, which means that like all these little Excruciator cannon profiles and stuff just start to go insane. So it seems like it's probably not too bad in Death Guard in general, but its abilities sort of a little bit anti-synergistic with the army. I guess like being able to strip cover for your heavy blow drones is probably not too bad. I don't know. Plus you get like Tenderless emissions and Mortarian's Hammer. You get a bunch of rerolls on your blast weapons from the Lord of Virulence. Maybe it's okay. Emperor's Children one is incredible. It gives you a +1 to hit version of the what's the guy? They reduced the unit, the base size? Oh, is that true? I'm gonna fact check. I'm gonna fact check you on that, chat. Where I guess I don't know where it would say that. Is it on the Games Workshop website? If it's 130 mil, this data sheet's insanely broken. Because now it can rapid ingress off of table edges. If it is not, then I don't know where I would see the base size, chat. So I don't know if I can verify that. It is not fact checkable. All right. Well, if it is 130 millimeter, we'll call it now. The scene is probably busted. If it's at 160, then we're probably locked in at 2 because I think maneuvering them is going to be tough. But if it is 130, then it is. Well, it was always around base, but the current Defiler model comes in on the round base that the like Soul Grinder and stuff has, the big, huge, like 6-inch one. if it's on the Great Unclean One base, which is the 130 mil, then this unit is significantly better. Like, transformatively better. But I have no way to know if that's the case. So if somebody has like a link or something to an article that talks about his base size, then that would be nice to know. But obviously, I don't know about that. No, it's not an oval. No, he's always on a big round base. But the Emperor's Children, Defiler has a +1 to hit if the enemy is not below half strength. This is great because this is what the Ballistic Dreadnought does. It rerolls its wounds if you're not, or it rerolls its hits if you're not below half strength. As we know, it is unironically difficult not to trigger this ability because it only checks whether or not you are below half strength. It doesn't care if you are at half strength. So from full strength to half, you're good to go. Once you are below half of your total wounds count, that's when the thing procs, which means, for example, if you are if you're a 12 wound vehicle, this Defiler will get +1 to hit against you until you have 5 wounds remaining. 90% of the time, you're like dead, or you're so wounded at that point that it doesn't matter. And so this effect typically just triggers all game. Or it doesn't trigger in a case where it doesn't make a difference, typically. So the Emperor's Children one basically just hits on 2s. Plus, it can advance, shoot, and charge. Because it's Emperor's Children. Obviously, with a million riders on that. And it's going to actually, unironically, going to be difficult to trigger, to target things with Thrill Seekers if it's in Emperor's Children, because it has so many guns, and if you advance it and advance your Noise Marines, for example, like, you can't shoot any of those guns at the same thing that the Noise Marines shot with any of their guns. So it gets a little bit difficult. That said, having a big, pretty reliable, high output shooting platform is something that Emperor's Children have never had before outside of Noise Marine squads. But Noise Marine squads are in many cases like a melee unit, essentially. A very short range unit. This thing can take 4 las cannons, which outside of a Land Raider, they haven't been able to do. But you don't typically want to take a Land Raider. It's a big, solid vehicle that can't go through walls or whatever. This thing can go through walls. It's super fast. It's super maneuverable. Obviously based a lot on its base size, and it doesn't have to fully commit in to deal its damage. Plus, it's also good at clearing utility units if you're bringing the higher output, the higher like volume attacks, right? Because it's able to take these Excruciator cannon profiles, for example. So I think, honestly, I think, oh, this is not the right thing. I think the Emperor's Children one's probably going to be incredibly good. Having access to a ranged platform in Emperor's Children, a very consistent range platform, something I never really had before. Transformative. The Thousand Suns one seems okay, I guess. It just Overwatch is good, which is, I don't know. It 5-up. It Overwatches on 5s, and you can get it to Overwatch on 4s. It doesn't have any rerolls, so it's still like pretty random, but it is a million attacks. You can take the Bale Flamer, so it also has the auto-hitting torrent. But like, the weird part is that like Thousand Suns is already this faction where you're pussyfooting around Overwatch so often anyway, because you don't want to be shot by like 10 Scarab-called Terminators, with lethal hits, or the Arcane Vortex fucking Infernal Master guy, or an entire brick of Rubric Marines. So it's like, I don't know. It feels a little tomato soupy where we're like the faction who already probably uses Overwatch better than almost every other faction in the game is also has a thing that's good at Overwatch, and you're like, okay, I mean, I guess so. That said, it's another thing where like having a big individual independent unit is good. Being able to get rerolls and AP bonuses and stuff from Kabbalistic Rituals, also good. As we know, being able to apply those bonuses to other big range attacks is pretty solid. I wonder if there's like a Warp Forge Cabal build in here somewhere. Unfortunately, this thing just shoots a billion times, so getting like one floating reroll on it's not super exciting. I guess it's good on its las cannon if you take like a las cannon build, so maybe there's something in there. I don't know. This guy have a Deadly Demise? Yeah, Deadly Demise D6. So also like improving your own Deadly Demise is probably not ideal in that detachment, because he explodes on your own sorcerers on a 5+. So yeah, I don't know if I'm like super into the Thousand Suns one. Well, we'll see. Maybe there is like a Warforged build in there, and you just are throwing Overwatch every turn off of a Defiler or something, and just like stacking damage with it. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. It's very annoying to play around, I imagine, because you're always just like, do I walk into the middle of the table and we just like roll a million attacks and see what happens with this big thing? If you're not playing Grand Coven, so you're not quite as like starved on command points, maybe that's fine. It doesn't Overwatch for free. Importantly, you still have to spend the command point on it. So, if you're playing a lot of the detachments that are very focused on stratagems are going to be really tough to use this on. But maybe there's probably builds in there. It's probably better than I'm giving it credit for. I think it almost certainly is. So I don't know. That feels very, very obnoxious to play around, I guess. But it's like something that you're already sort of doing with Thousand Suns anyway. The World Eaters one lets you shoot or charge enemies that are set up within 12 inches of it. Which also seems pretty good. It triggers at the end of your opponent's movement phase. So because it's not like a stacked trigger with Overwatch, there's no like weirdness with stacking them together. You just select an enemy unit within 12 inches. The problem is it is only 12 inches. So it is very difficult to like teleport onto. However, if you get rapid ingress into it doesn't do anything because it's your movement phase, not your opponent's movement phase. So this ability feels like a bit of a nothing burger. I guess it like punishes transport play, but I don't know I don't know why we're taking like a 300 point like nominally super heavy vehicle to punish like a rhino. I mean, I guess it's good, right? Its stat line is good, so we're probably gonna play it anyway. But this ability feels like kind of a nothing burger. I don't know. Is Rodeo to get rapid fire on million guns? I don't believe so, Chance. It does not seem to me that they are changing the profile, just the ability. Unless I know about that, yeah, I don't think they say anything about that. Whether these weapon profiles are going to be different, it doesn't seem like it. So I imagine it's just going to be the same. It's just going to be these weapons. World ability is situationally strong. It is very situationally strong, but it also requires your opponent to like forget about it, right? If they're like, I'm going to deep strike, this thing next to you, and hopefully nothing happens. And you're like, well, the only ability I have is that I shoot you and you deep strike next to me. So like, I guess I'll fight you. And you're like, okay, cool. I don't know. It punishes like very specific kinds of play that I don't know necessarily if you need. But being a big gun in World Eaters is okay. World Eaters' big guns are typically pretty weird. So they don't have a ton of support for it, but maybe it's fine. Warforged really like it. I guess they have like they can +1 to wound it, which is pretty good, and you can -1 AP, which is pretty good. So there's like things to do. I would be worried about a 5+ triggering D6 to the demise of my own stuff though. That is like a potentially game losing amount of damage if it happens early. I don't know. We'll see. It would be cool if it unlocked a new archetype for Thousand Suns, though. Thousand Suns look like they're doing pretty well right now, with like their different Rubrique Phalanx builds and stuff, which is cool. I like that people are branching out into Rubrique Phalanx. We streamed a couple of months ago. We streamed a couple different versions of Rubrique Phalanx where they were playing more Rubric Marines and stuff. Seems like that was good. And if this also unlocks Warforged Cabal, I think that would be pretty sweet. Do they just hate GSC? Yeah, maybe. Guys, you know what World Eaters needed? Anti-GSC hate. I don't know. Playing like demons, I'm like a little worried because obviously like there's 2 anti-demon effects in here between improved Overwatch and shoot when you deep strike that will make it difficult to interact with. But I don't know. Maybe you just join them. Maybe you just play Defilers yourself. Who knows? Given how the editions guy would not say they hate GSE. Well, that's true. They have been situationally super broken. Too bad the Defiler can't charge through walls. I think even if it could, I think you would have a tough time positioning it in such a way that that would like work. Unless you are on one side of the wall and your opponent's like exactly 6 inches or like 7 inches away on the other side, and you could just charge like with your base from one side to the other. But to clear the wall, it's a minimum of a 7-inch roll, right? So it's if you're touching it. So I think in a lot of cases you wouldn't be able to charge through the wall anyway. Most of the time, if you're trying to like nudge through a wall, you'll probably be looking for huge charges regardless. I think generally speaking, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be playing a ranged game where this thing is taking cover behind a terrain feature where it's trying to hide or it's trying to gain cover. And then as you move to the mid game, it's just going to bust through that wall in order to access things in the center of the battlefield later. So like turn 1, it's going to be behind a structure and just like trading shots and stuff. And then turn 2 or 3, it's going to run in, like shoot a thing to death, kill a utility unit. And then the game is, we'll see what happens. Anyway, chat. Do we know if they're 160 mil? I would assume they are. They're currently 160 mil. I don't see a reason for it to change. And I don't know if it has. So I don't know. I don't know if it's been confirmed. Anyway, folks, those are all the data sheets. They seem incredibly strong. Even the Mutilators, the least exciting, least flashy of them, seem in some cases solid, like situationally playable, which is like, all you can ask for, really. But Kravek Morne, it just absolutely spits damage at people. Obviously, he's going to be very points dependent. Whether or not he ends up seeing play in competition with all of the other phenomenal Chaos Space Marine epic heroes is going to be a big question. And then the Defiler also seems great. Points permitting on both of these, obviously, but I think they are very strong, and I think in many builds you're going to be able to see them pretty good. The Goonhammer article just dropped, assumes 160 mil. Goonhammer has a lot more insider information than I do, so if Goonhammer thinks they're 160, I tend to also assume that they're going to be 160. If they are smaller, that's fucking wild, but I would assume 160. So let's see it as 160 in the app. Well, these data sheets are not in the app, to my knowledge. These are just previews. Yeah, these data sheets aren't official yet. So we won't see that change until the next, like, sort of Minotaur update or whatever. So I don't think we're going to see any changes to that. So anyway, chat. I think that's all I got to talk about. The seems great. I think Chaos Space Marine's already looking pretty good. I think they're going to look even better after these drop. Most likely, unless they end up being crazy, insanely overpriced. I, for one, welcome our new Chaos Space Marine Overlords. Hopefully, the Twin Lance can save us. I put all my faith in the Twin Lance. I beseech the greater good to come and defeat our new Chaos Space Marine fighters. Anyway. So yeah. We'll go ahead and hop out. If you're at Adepticon, come see me. Like I said, I'm packing right now, so I'll be on the road tomorrow, and then we'll be there for the rest of the week, which will be fun. And I'll be playing the GT on Thursday. I'll be playing a bunch of Soul Grinders because I think they're neat. And I think it's gonna be great. Otherwise, I'm gonna be in. I gotta double check the room number. I'm gonna be in room. N106B, where we're going to be running Breachstorm events all weekend. So if you want to come play Breachstorm for the rest of the weekend when we're not doing 40k GT stuff, then that's where I'll be. So come, we're doing demos, we're doing organized play, all that stuff, which will be fun. So anyway, chat, Hashtag room doxed. It's just it's on my website. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Cool. Cheers, everybody. Keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming and all that stuff. And I will see you probably in like 2 weeks. Cheers.